Well, thank you, everybody, for showing up. This is great. We had a good turnout, and it's always nice to be in this room because it's nice and warm. Hope the travels weren't too bad. So we'll call the meeting to order. Mary, do we have any new introductions you want to talk about? You see everybody here you want to see?
Yeah, you want to do roll call?
Well, I'll let you do a roll call, but I didn't know if you had somebody else we wanted to call up here or so.
I don't see any new faces.
Okay, roll call, please. I got to get our books all assigned here.
Eltoff? Here. Bigwood? Bonsack?
Here.
Carlsrud?
Here.
Or, you know what, I think we need to start this meeting. On Zoom.
Who are we waiting on?
I'm waiting till, the meeting did not get started on Zoom.
Oh, I see. That's what's holding, okay. Do we have to set that up or on the Zoom part?
Oh, you know what, it's not Zoom. It's through Brian.
I think Kim's got an idea here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, isn't it right?
Yeah, I sent it wrong.
Oh, it's
Yes.
supposed to be.
Want somebody to sign in for you?
So do you need to tell them,
Yes.
are you sending a new link?
I'll have to send a new link.
It's just, Lisa's
Could
gonna
be.
send a new link to everybody that's on the Zoom at this time, so please check your email in like 2 minutes. Okay, and then end it. No, cancel.
She can't get in?
No.
Here. Here, admit all real quick, and then we'll just tell everybody.
Shoot, I forgot about that. That's why he's having a problem. I'm going to have to send out a new link for the meeting to everyone. So we're going to disconnect, and you will get something else that will allow you to participate.
And then end.
Well, I think arrangement, perhaps for 11 hours, just a 3 hour, so imagine it's still, that just wasn't, I think I got one of those. Yeah.
Can we establish quorum of people here?
We do have a form here. I just know that Maureen was going to do the advisory committee thing.
Okay.
She's doing it.
Let's do a roll call through the people that are here.
I'll start over. Eltoff? Here. Bigwood? Bonsack?
Here.
Carlsrud?
Here.
Erdman? Johnson? Mahoney?
Here.
Nielsen? Schmaltz? Schmidt?
Here.
Bean? Our associate member from Devil's Lake? And
Grab- get up
Lambert
to the table.
from Wapaton, is he here?
Got a nameplate.
Siegert?
Grub, you're supposed to be up at the table. No. I'll get to Bernie later.
Did you get?
Are we there? Got quorum? So we have a quorum. I'll have to continue to work on getting everybody else. I know Al is on. So can I have an approval to the agenda? And I'm going to add one item at the end, Associate Director for us. So is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. So motion to approve the minutes of October 27, 2021. Is there a second? Travis, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Well, thank God you're here finally. Thank you, Tom.
Little technical difficulty, but I'm with you guys.
Good. Officer report. Ken, you have anything to report?
Nothing.
Isn't there progress in Grand Forks on a certain plant that will consume all our water?
We'll talk about that offline.
Offline. Is there anybody disruptive in the audience? Is there anyone disruptive? Oh, Bernie Dardis might object, so you better be careful. Financial Advisory Committee, did Maureen get on? Okay, when she comes on, just tell me and we'll go with that. We're going to have a construction update, but it's not going to be Kip. Who's going to give a construction update?
I'm not sure if Steve's
Chairman, I
doing it
guess
or
I-
Kurt.
Have been asked to see Kip for the day.
Oh, you're Kip for the day. Okay, well,
And if you see Steve, I'll also be Steve.
Steve, okay. Do you have the qualifications?
No, but I'm still gonna do it.
Okay, you're on.
So under the construction update, we'll start with that. We do have only two projects that are under contract currently that haven't been closed out. One is the pipeline, and obviously that's shut down for the winter. And the other is the intake, and they are doing a little bit of work on the intake. And Kurt Ronenkamp from Black and Veatch is here, and he was going to share his screen and just show us a few pictures of some of the work that's being done throughout the winter.
Thank you, Steve. I shared my screen. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, I'll move on. As Steve mentioned, we've got two active construction projects right now. The pipeline project, which is out just south of Carrington over to Borgelac. They finished up in the 2022 construction season and essentially shut things down in early November. They'll be back on job site in late March, early April of 23. And then concerning the active work going on this wintertime at the Missouri River intake, this is a picture of the intake site and then the shaft site this summer. There's been some changes, and right now, all of the work at the river has been completed, and the cofferdam that you see here on this photo, they were in the process of removing the cofferdam. That has since been taken out, and all of the work has been completed in the river. And then to access that cofferdam and to get it installed and get it taken out, they had a temporary access bridge that was put in. We're in the process of taking that access bridge out. There was some question as to what needed to come out of the river, and that's been resolved with the Corps. And we're moving forward with the removal of the rest of that bridge. Right now, it's on hold due to safety concerns with access. And then the other work that's going on at Missouri River, we're working inside the shaft. Here you see a temporary enclosure that the contractor has installed that'll allow him to work over the winter time. And the work that's going on in the shaft and wet well is essentially putting in the structural wall walls inside of the shaft. These will be the finished product. And as you can see here, they're tying the rebar and setting the forms for the first pour of the walls, which is the first of 5. And then here is just another photo of them placing the concrete for the first lift in the wet well, and that was done right prior to Christmas. So that kind of concludes the construction update for what has transpired over the last couple of months.
Are there any questions of Kurt on construction? So, Mr. Chairman, I'll also move then to construction update item A1, which will refer to tab B, even though we get a little bit of feedback from somebody on, there you go. Even though the construction isn't taking place currently on the pipeline, we do have a change order for the pipeline that we'll need a motion on today. Mr. Chairman, it has to do with access hatches, and it's actually an owner requested improvement, and Kurt will also address some of the details of that.
That's 92,000.
What?
92,000, yes. I have so task order.
I think Kurt has just a little bit of information on it.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have shown up on the screen kind of the original design, and this was included in the first pipeline contract. And essentially, we had shown and required a circular access hatch. There were some maintenance concerns from staff and also safety concerns in light of the fact that the lid on this is in excess of a couple 100 pounds. So the design team worked with staff and came up with a reconfiguration of that to provide better access, and essentially have gone to a larger hatch. It's made of aluminum, it's lockable, and we would be installing these on all the contract 5B access hatches. There's a total of 21 access hatches, and as you mentioned, the total amount of the change order is $92,814.79.
Now, can I have a
And
motion?
Steve?
Oh, he's not quit then. Go ahead.
No, I'm complete. So thank you.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second? Come on. Moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye. Or no, I have to roll call. Roll call.
Eltoff? Bigwood? Bonsack?
Yes.
Karlsruhe?
Yes.
Erdman?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes.
Nielsen? Schmaltz? Schmidt?
Yes.
Ian?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Now tab C.
Mr. Chairman, I do note that Maureen's on. I don't know if you want to pick her up or do you want to keep going with my stuff?
Oh, Maureen, you're on now?
Yes, I'm here.
You can go through your agenda item, Finance Advisory Committee.
Wonderful. Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, just maybe as a quick update, our group did meet on November 16th as the LAWA Financial Advisory Committee. You may be aware Ken Costin, Finance Director for the City of Fargo, did retire. So we have a new Finance Director for the City of Fargo, Terry Gayhart, and she will be co-chairing this advisory committee with me. So she was introduced as part of this meeting, and just maybe as just a high-level recap, I'll just go through a couple of points of what we discussed. Kip Kovar was there from Garrison Diversion, and he provided construction update and shared progress photos with the group. John Shockley was there as well and gave a high-level overview of the participation, the project participation agreement, and the draft of that, and summary of its contents and the supporting exhibits. More specific to the finance exhibits is what was gone through as part of the PPA, and Sean Gaddy went through that from AE2S Nexus and gave more in-depth overview of those financial exhibits, their C, D, E, and H. Just looking at expenses incurred, reallocation of those expenses with the participants, and how to handle those costs and how they're allocated, and how to project debt service, and how that's expected to be incurred. Mary Meridian from Garrison also discussed that PPA and the timing of what they're looking at rolling that out in 2023 here, and an overview of the upcoming legislative strategy as we enter the 68th Legislative Assembly here. Overall, I think it was a pretty good discussion of the group. It was well attended, eager to learn more about that PPA as it moves forward to full rollout and better understand really that federal funding component of the NDOS portion of the project. And of course, our group is here to support legislative efforts as we go forward here. We do plan to meet again as an advisory committee. We're looking at a couple dates here, either the end of this month or early February. But with that, that's really the recap that I had from that last meeting.
Very good. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Now we'll go back to tab C. Steve Byrne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 7B is the work plan update. If you refer to tab C, that is dated December 7th of 2022. In talking to Kip, it's still very similar to the one that was presented in your minutes of October 20th of 2022. There hasn't been a lot of additional work done, and any work that has been done was already previously updated with you, so I don't think there's anything else to add to that. Maybe just moving on then, under B1, we have a task order for geotechnical services. Kip asked me to explain that this was a timing issue. Originally, they thought they'd go out and get these borings right away, but it doesn't appear like the borings are going to happen until March now. And so this will have an opportunity to go back to the Technical Advisory Committee. And so at your discretion, Mr. Chairman, you could either make a motion today, even though it's not dark, and have that be a contingent upon the TAC approval, or you could defer action on it after we discuss it and then have it addressed at your next board meeting. So when we get done with Kurt's brief presentation, you have an option on how you want to address that. Kurt?
Thank you. Under tab D, I believe there were a couple of maps that were included. What this task order entails is going out and obtaining supplemental geotechnical information in contract 7. And as you can see there, contract 7 is located on the eastern end of the pipeline, and it runs from the end of contract 6 over to the outfall. There's a total of 43 borings that are going to be completed under this task order. And since assembly of your board books, Black and Beach and the engineering team have been able to pull together the task order and get it completed. At this point in time, we have arrived at a fee of $397,000. And as I'm sharing on my screen, this is the executive summary of the task order. The schedule on this, as Steve mentioned, we had originally thought that we might get out in January to get this done, but it looks like it's likely going to push to February or March. We're trying to get the field work completed prior to ground thawing. So field work will take about a month, and we anticipate that the full execution of this task order will take about 6 months. So we should be done by mid-year, and then that would allow us to use this information to proceed forward on the design on contract 7.
Any questions? So Steve, you suggested 2 motions. Could we do the one motion which allows the technical committee to sign off?
Yeah, you could either, 2 approaches. You could either defer, or you could ask for a motion today contingent upon TAC approval, one or the other.
Will somebody make that motion, please? Okay, your second? Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Eltroff? Higwood? Bonsack?
Yes.
Carlsrud?
Yes.
Erdman?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye.
Nielsen? Schmaltz? Schmidt?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Tab E.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is contractor pre-qualification. At your last board meeting, you did approve a task order with Black & Veatch to move forward with this process. And historically, you did have a couple contracts where there were some questions at bid time about qualifications of the contractor. And so with this process, it does not prevent somebody from trying to get qualified at bid time, but it would allow them to have the peace of mind that they know they've been pre-qualified. In tab E is the full packet, the process, and then the steps that they'd have to walk through, and Kurt's prepared to talk a little bit about this as an information item this morning.
Thank you, Steve. I don't have a whole lot to add to that. We do anticipate getting this out on the streets in January. We will be contacting general contractors. This will be an opportunity for contractors that have been kind of on the cusp of being qualified in the past to make their case and demonstrate why we should include them as a qualified contractor. So we'll complete this, get this out on the streets in January, and then we do plan on having some informational sessions and presentations to general contractors as well as part of this. The evaluation of the qualifications received will be evaluated not only by the consulting team, but that'll be done hand in hand with Garrison Diversion staff as well.
So this is information, basically. Okay.
Any questions?
Statement of interest, engineering service.
Mr. Chairman, under tab G, whoops, that's Mary, under tab F, sorry, we have a statement of interest for engineering services. So with the major ask that we have this biennium, there's the potential that the actual construction activities could expand significantly. With that, there historically has been some interest in expanding the team to allow other North Dakota firms that have offices here to potentially participate. And so this particular statement of interest is one that's been drafted, and Kurt will talk about that further as well, as an information item only.
Very good.
Kurt?
Any questions?
Sorry, just very briefly.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yes, we do anticipate expanding the team, as Steve mentioned. These statements or letters of interest submitted by the professional services firms will cover the full gamut of services being provided for the Red River project. We anticipate getting firms involved in not only design efforts, but construction efforts, surveying efforts, really across the board to be able to expand a team and to provide the necessary services for the $340 million program potentially coming up in the 23-25 biennium.
Very good.
That concludes my items at this point.
Program schedule, Mary?
All
Tab
right.
G.
Yes, tab G, please, is our current program schedule. As you are pretty much aware that our earlier out projects, the Missouri River Wet Well, the Transmission Pipeline A, and the Cheyenne River Discharge are pretty much basically completed. The Pipeline 5A, we still have some reserve that we're holding back, I think. But other than that, those are pretty much done. The screen and tunnel structure, which they showed some pictures earlier, is showed to have currently final completion at the end of February. For 5B, which is the other current construction contract, which is roughly 9 miles, just a little bit south and east of Carrington. That is expected final completion December 14th of this year. And then we've added a couple new things here, and that is more transmission pipelines. It's 5C and D and 6A and B, and that's all going towards Cooperstown. And those are basically in final design and ready to bid this summer, depending on how much funding comes from the legislature. So I kind of had yellow highlights of items that were new in here for you to see. And that's everything, but I would answer any questions, or Kurt would be able to help answer questions.
Any questions, team? No questions. Very agreeable team today. Planning level budget, Mary?
Yes, planning level budget is tab H. This is accounting for the funding of all of the projects that we have ongoing. Up in the yellow, these are all of the items that we consider completed, and that is $28.7 million. Down a little bit in the blue are some trailing items that we are finishing up at 85% complete, $2 million at current estimate. We've expended 1.7, about $300,000 remaining. In green in the middle, that's pretty much everything that we have ongoing that doesn't pertain to construction. And that is a $14.9 million effort right now. We've expended 6.7 and have outstanding and obligated 8.1 million. In the orange, those are all of the construction projects that we actually have under construction or have completed. Total construction, we're at 44% complete. We have 93 million obligated or estimated for construction. We've expended 40.8 million, have 52 overall. So for our entire program budget, we have 56% complete. It's a $139 million estimated budget, and we have expended a little over 78 million. Outstanding is almost 61 million. So the project is definitely on its way. And I sure would answer any questions. We don't need a motion or anything on that.
We're okay with that? Dave, wouldn't you like to have 80 million to spend on something? I don't think we can bear to just help Valley City here, but draft legislative request?
Yeah, I'll just provide a quick update. We have talked about that we have a $255 million draft legislative request into the legislature. We have been asked if we can spend more money in case if there's a bonding bill or anything. We've said we certainly can. Right now, I'll state in the governor's budget, we've heard that it's 170 million. That is a great starting point. That's more than we've ever had in the past. We'll still continue to support the governor's budget, but advocate that, we requested the 255 million. We do have, and I'll have, we'll send these out, maybe Kim can send out, we have some draft piece that we'll give to all the Garrison Diversion and Lake Agassiz board members so that you have just some pretty simple talking points. Nothing new in here that you haven't seen before, but when we send it out, if you have any questions, please contact Kim, myself, or anybody on our team because we can definitely help you. I'll just give a little update of what I know. January 11th, the State Water Commission budget is going to be heard. It's going to be Senate Bill 2020. It starts in the Senate this session, but on that day, it's only going to be agency hearing. So if people want to attend, you certainly can attend, but nobody will be up that day giving any testimony besides the agency. But now they're thinking January 18th or 19th is when they're going to break into actually having the hearing for the Senate Bill 2020 budget. And this morning I said, water users had a call on this, and I said that we would probably have a Garrison Diversion and a Lake Agassiz person up there testifying. We'll ask for letters of support from others like we have in the past. And I would say if we are in a time crunch, I'll back up a little bit, that the Senate is going to do something different with appropriations this year. Before, Senate appropriations always met as one group. They're breaking into subcommittees just like the House does. So the full Senate will hear the bill on the 11th, and then it will be referred down to the E&E committee, which Senator Sorvag will be chairing. And it's going to kind of follow pattern after what the House what the House does. So we'll hear a little bit more when we actually find out the time on the 11th, in case if you want to be there or watch it. It hasn't been published yet, unless if it has since we've been on the, in here. And then when we find out when the actual testimonies can be done, we'll also reach out that if you can come, that would be great. It'll probably be in the Rough Rider room, which gets a little tight, but to be there is always good, or to submit testimony. So we'll be reaching out for that.
And what we've heard from the legislative team is, can you spend it? So that's a big push today, it seems to be, is they don't want to have carryover. So Mary knows that we not only spend 1.7, but 255 we can spend, and that's really over $300 million that we would be able to spend. At some point, if we fund this in a more aggressive fashion, we will sometimes be spending $400 million in a biennium. So just if anybody would ask you a question, would you be able to spend it? Your answer is yes. Whatever they give us, that we would go after that, so. Okay, you're done?
And I may just say one other thing, that we are looking to get a more cohesive group together. When I'm at the legislature, it's really hard. I'm always sending out SOSs, and it's hard to keep everybody updated. We're looking at bringing Rocky Schneider with Advanced Engineering on our team. Rocky has been on our team, but we're looking at helping him be gatekeeper. So if you start getting emails from Rocky, it's all going through the Garrison Lake Agassiz, but he's going to try and help be a gatekeeper and disseminate some of the information, because sometimes we have a really small staff, and when we're down at the legislature, it's hard to reach out and make sure everybody's aware of it. So Rocky is going to be helping with that. Rocky, do you want to raise your hand back there for those who may not know you, so they have a face to go with the emails?
Very good.
That was everything.
So is Steve going to do the work plan as well? Okay, you're on.
Mr. Chairman, agenda item 8, if you turn to tab I, it's
There
a
is.
pretty high-level
New one.
tab, but I think it is maybe important just to touch on your priorities for the next year. Item 1 intuitively is wrapping up those construction projects that we've been talking about.
They're passing this out as we speak here. Old-fashioned paper. How does Tom get it? Are you sending it to Tom by email?
I'm sorry,
Tom, how is he getting it? Is it getting by email?
How do those online get?
What changed, Lisa?
One change, and I think it's number 5. They added a couple of contracts in there.
Okay. Okay. So if I'll just continue then. The item 1 under it's very minor change, and I'll refer to it when we get to it. Item 1 is completing those construction contracts that we have under contract. Item 2 is to make sure that we complete final design on enough segments to keep ahead of the funding, so that we do have shovel-ready aspects. With the pivot a little bit from prioritizing the Missouri River intake and the classic project to looking at NDOS, item 3 are preliminary designs, and 4 for the water plant and the intake and the pipeline segment for NDOS. And then item 5, which is the one that has been updated in the old packet, they were just looking at bidding 2 segments, 5C and 5D. If we're successful in getting as much funding as we anticipate, we could also bid and begin construction on 6A and 6B. And so that will be highly dependent on the funding that we get from the legislature. In order to also stay ahead of things, we need to continue with the land acquisition efforts, whether that's in fee title for some of the facilities, or whether that's securing right-of-way easements for the pipeline. We'll continue with that process. I have been involved with Kip and Paul and others on the Phase 2 operational planning. We spent a lot of time in 2022 supporting the project participation agreement as it related to operations, and we're now back chugging away on that and plan to wrap that Phase 2 effort up this year. We also know that as we bring some of those users on, potentially online, or get commitments from them for the ones that aren't on the river or right next to the pipeline, we'll have those branch pipelines that need to be provided. Some of the users are still considering how much water they want to commit to and where they want to commit to getting that water. And so we'll have to update some of those branch pipeline concepts at some point and bring that back to you. We've talked at length in the past about the project participation agreement. very extensive document completed between Vogel and Onstead Twitchell. It's been shared with some of the participants now and working through some of the final details of that. And then on the program management side, I think you were briefed previously on eBuilder, the new software they plan to put in place when you have a $1.6 billion project and all the moving parts associated with that. They determined that this particular software would be the tool that they would use to support all the different aspects of the project. And then financial modeling will continue as it will work hand in hand with the project participation agreement, user outreach in order to get those agreements signed, and then continuing the communications with stakeholders, legislators, and key decision makers throughout the session, and then probably as importantly, after the session as we continue to implement the project. Mr. Chairman, that's our 2023.
There is this action item.
Yes, it is an action item, please.
So can I have a motion to approve the 2023 work plan?
So moved.
And is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Eltoff? Yes. Bigwood?
Yes.
Bonsack?
Yes.
Carlsrud?
Yes.
Erdman?
Yes.
Johnson? Mahoney?
Yes.
Nielsen? Schmaltz? Schmidt?
Yes.
Meehan?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Central water supply issue. Tammy Norgard, you got some good news, interesting news, changes?
There's been a change. There hasn't been a lot of changes in this, the Central North Dakota water supply litigation for a while. But actually, the Eighth Circuit heard oral argument in November on the question on the appeal. So Missouri appealed the district court's decision, which found in our favor. But Missouri appealed that to the Eighth Circuit. And just for your information, like there's the district court in Missouri, and then the next level up is the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is kind of the appeals court for a variety of states. And then the next step up is the U.S. Supreme Court. So this is that mid-level court. And we had oral arguments, and one of the first questions the panel asked Missouri's legal representative was, if you can't even measure it in a river, the 20 CFS, how can you claim that you're being harmed? So I think that kind of set the tone for the argument. So we're very hopeful that we'll get a decision soon, but we haven't received it yet. An oral argument was on November 16th. So I expect that it should be within the next month or so.
Be nice before the legislative team's done.
Right.
Yeah.
There's one other issue that, if you're okay with me adding, the WOTUS rule. There was a new development with the Waters of the United States. That's been an issue that we've talked about at Lake Agassiz for years. The EPA and the Corps released a new WOTUS rule, and that's Waters of the United States, on December 30th. And I just wanted to give you a little context on that because it's been very important for our project. And I think so Waters of the United States, what the issue is whether the federal government can come in and regulate it, whether you have to get a federal permit or not crossing a wetland. And so the question of what is a Waters of the United States is important because that allows the federal government to come in and require environmental review and require conditions and basically stall projects, delay projects, kill projects, depending on the issues and who's involved. You might recall President Obama put a rule in place before he left office that included language that it would regulate prairie potholes. And that was important for North Dakota. North Dakota sued. The Obama rule was vacated ultimately. And it's important because a lot of our pipeline goes through the prairie pothole region of North Dakota, so it's super important that language. Okay, so then President Trump put in his own definition of waters of the United States under his administration. That also was litigated and was ultimately vacated. So right now, we're under the pre-2015, before Obama. That's what's in place right now. So President Biden put a new rule in place, and that's just finalized December 30th. It goes into effect around the 1st of March. And the good thing about this language is it does not include the language prairie pothole region. So it does follow the Biden language pretty closely. However, it doesn't include prairie potholes. And really what's at issue is how far from a navigable water do you have to be? And the last Supreme Court decisions on this in 2006 and 2009, the question is, do you have to be physically connected to a navigable waterway, like a river, stream, tributary, or is there just a nexus, a significant nexus? So there's got to be some hydrologic connection to a official flowing water, essentially. So the nice thing is that this doesn't include prairie potholes, because that's more of an isolated wetland. They can still regulate it if it's determined to be a permanent water, and large enough, independent enough, permanent. So there's an opportunity, but it's not by default going to be regulated. The controversy over it that came out is whether Biden should have released this rule while they're waiting to get a decision from the U.S. Supreme Court on the Sackett versus U.S. case, which was argued in October. So that should be coming out soon, and that was a homeowner that got a violation of the Clean Water Act for filling a wetland, and the argument was, is this a wetland of the United States or not? So we're awaiting that decision. The question was, should the administration have let this rule out while you're waiting to hear what the Supreme Court's going to do with the language? So that's some of the debate that's in the news that you would have heard, but I just wanted to get the point across that it doesn't include prairie potholes, which was very important for us. Thank you.
Thank you. 2022 budget analysis statement, Mary, tab J.
Yes.
And bills paid, tab K, so JK.
Yes, please. So 2022 budget analysis, this will be the year-end one that we'll ask you to approve. So for income, the budget was 1.5 million, actually brought in 758,000. Balance of the budget is 775,000. And basically on that, as we receive expenses for the construction or design of the Red River Valley Water Supply Project, we turn around and ask for cost share through Lake Agassiz. Wasn't quite as much as we had anticipated. Expenses were 1.6, or budget was 1.6 million, 836,000 was what was expended, leaving 793,000. Again, same thing. So for Lake Agassiz, for the beginning of the year, started the bank balance at 576,000, income received of 758,000, leaving a total available funds of 1.3 million. After expenses of 836,000, there is $498,000 in the bank at the end of the year. And Mr.
Approval?
Chairman, we would need approval of
Is there a
that.
motion to approve? Mark takes it. Is there a second? Keith. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Delta. Bigwood.
Yes.
Bonsack.
Yes.
Carlsrud.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yes.
Nielsen. Schmaltz. Schmidt.
Yes.
Vian. Motion's carried.
Proposed budget for 2023, tab L.
Yes, please. This is the 2023 budget for Lake Agassiz. For dues income, we show that about $30,000. Cost share would be 580,000, meaning total income of 610,000. Regular expenses that we have there totaling $680,000. Just going back to the beginning bank balance at the beginning of the year was 498,000. We expect income of 610,000, expenses of 680,000. So at the end of the year, we anticipate a balance of $428,000. And the reason that I'll show that it kind of shows a deficit is the dues income of $30,000 is what basically pays for Lake Agassiz just to carry on its operations outside of anything for design and construction of Red River Valley Water Supply Project. The admin and legal is a little bit more than that. BHFS from Washington DC, who is our lobbyist trying to help advocate to get federal funding for NDOS, they're included in that. And then the work that John Shockley is doing as Lake Agassiz's attorney, that comes a little bit more than the 30,000 would cover. But you would not be without funds. It would still be showing about $428,000 in the bank. Not answer any questions, but we would look for approval of the 23 budget as well.
Can I have a motion? So move. Bill? Ken, a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Eltoff. Bigwood.
Aye.
Bonsack.
Yes.
Carlsrud.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Johnson. Mahoney.
Aye.
Nielsen. Schmaltz. Schmidt.
Yes.
Meehan.
Yes.
Motion's carried.
You know, I mentioned I went over K, so I think I have to get a motion for K for bills paid. Is that
K
correct?
is bills paid if you'd like
A little
to.
anxious to get to Frisco, sorry. Do I have a motion for item K, which is bills paid? Mark, is there a second? Keith? Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Bigwood.
Aye.
Bonsack.
Yes.
Carlsrud.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Johnson. Mahoney.
Aye.
Nielsen. Schmaltz. Schmidt.
Yes.
Meehan.
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Very good. Membership due tabs, that's just for information, Mary?
The dues tab on tab M is the dues that we would be sending out, and it is just for approval for Lake Agassiz to approve sending those dues. We didn't show increasing the dues or anything, so it would be to just keep it the same as we have done in the past, and if you approve that, then we'll send out the dues letters.
Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second? You two are getting pretty good at this. Roll call vote, please.
Eltoff. Bigwood.
Aye.
Bonsack.
Yes.
Carlsrud.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Johnson. Mahoney.
Aye.
Nielsen. Schmaltz. Schmidt.
Yes.
And Meehan.
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Good. All right, unfinished business, we'd like to move Bernie Dardis to be an associate member. Bernie has great connections because he comes from the Kildare area. He knew how to ranch and ride a horse and do a variety of different things, which has been really helpful with the Western legislative people. And he took a speech class somewhere at NDSU, I think, and learned how to speak very well when he speaks to people. And he kind of looks like a senior statesman. So if you guys would be so kind, I'd ask for a motion to bring him on as associate member.
I'll move.
Dave wanted to get it first because he's an old friend of him. Keith, or Ken, is that right? You can do the second.
I'll be second.
Now, if you want to say something about him, you're welcome to do that as well.
No, I would concur with everything that you said. I think he'll be a great addition. I really look forward to him at the table instead of sitting out there.
And Dave, you want to embellish anything about the time?
Or
he did
kind of like
something?
when we were in
Yeah.
third grade, you know what he said?
I thought you maybe had seen him play football when he was in NDSU, so. All those in favor, say aye.
We're cutting West Fargo with the associate.
Motion.
Aye.
Who's the second? Who seconded?
And then we have outreach meetings. Mary and Steve, we're going to talk about that?
Yeah, I can go ahead and start it out. We have had a few outreach meetings. I think that we have previously discussed that we've been in discussions with Washburn about using the Missouri River intake. We've been following up with that. The last meeting that we had, Kip and I went and met with their mayor and one of their council members, and that's how the city council had kind of decided is designating those two as the ones to talk with us. They had a few questions that we are replying answers back to, and kind of, I think that a question is just kind of being a smaller system with such a large project, you know, how would they fit in? So I'll state that we've invited them to Lake Agassiz meetings just to say, hey, there's a lot of users involved and to come here. So we'll continue to do that invite. I think Mayor Mahoney and others may reach out to them as well as members of Lake Agassiz. So that is ongoing with them. We've also been meeting or met a couple times with Rainbow Energy. They're looking at a large carbon capture system where they would need a lot of water. Steve, was it 27 or 25 CFS, so not a small amount. One of our engineers on our phone yesterday put it in a good perspective. For me yesterday, it's twice the amount that the city of Bismarck uses. So I like to have those little bit of references. They do have some questions on that. We're getting back some technical details to them as well. I'm going to state that they don't need the water till 2027, so it's a long-term planning thing for them. And they are also, they have their own intake on the Missouri River that they would have to kind of redo. So they're also going to be running their own engineering analysis and compare this. And they wouldn't make a decision for at least a year. But if they were to be part of the project, they'd work through McLean Sheridan, because we said that we'll never sell water straight to an industry, you know, unless if the system doesn't want to involve. So there would be local systems there. And Washburn is also interested in what Rainbow plans on doing, and I know that they have been in communications. Those are the updates. Steve is a little more on the technical complexities and maybe a couple of other user meetings that we've had.
So, Mr. Chairman and Mary, regarding Rainbow Energy, for the Washburn system, it was very easy for us to basically sneak Washburn in because their flow was so incidental to the overall flow that we were going to have. And we were already looking at putting some low lift pumps in to pump to the water plant. So high volume, but not very much pressure that we had to pump. And we could use those pumps, and it's only 4 miles to Washburn, so that was very synergistic. As we started looking at Rainbow, it's about 18 miles. Rainbow is located northwest of Washburn after the Missouri River turns. They're north of the Missouri River there. When you go 18 miles, it looks like it will need to either be a 30-inch or a 36-inch pipe. So we're talking about a very substantial capital investment, which, you know, is what we do as part of the project. But the dilemma we have is the way that the pump system is currently configured for the intake. It's meant to have 8 pumps in there, the high flow pumps, 4 of them, and 4 low flow pumps. And then those pumps would pump to another treatment plant and pump station just down the road. And then all the high pressure pumping to get to the brake tank would come from that second pump station. And so to just sneak Rainbow Energy in at 25 CFS into our existing intake, we discerned this week that it's really not complementary with the synergy of our project. And so we're going to go back to the drawing board a little bit and figure out some scenarios where we could fit them in, and then bring that to you from a policy standpoint to make sure that we're not overreaching. I think we could still be very cost-effective approach for them under some conditions. But if we have to do all the same things that they have to do, they're only 9 miles from the river and we're 18 miles from the river. So you don't need a real fancy calculator to figure out that we'd probably lose under that situation. It has to be a situation where we have some pumps already going in. If we can make them slightly larger, and then spread those costs across everybody, or spread the revenue across everybody, that's where we're going to get our big bang for our buck. So we stay tuned on Rainbow Energy. And then, as part of the PPA, Mary alluded to other meetings, we are working very closely with Fargo and Grand Forks as your 2 largest users to try to get a sense for the PPA and, you know, all the details that go along with that. And so although that's maybe not technically just user outreach, it falls into this category. And then we have a couple of folks from Moorhead here. We know that they're very interested. And I know Fargo is spending quite a bit of time their sister community, figuring out a way that they can incorporate Moorhead into the overall project from their perspective. So we have that in the works as well.
Very good. Any questions?
And that was me speaking, Mr. Chairman, not Kip.
Okay, thank you. Good to know that differentiation. Bruce Grubb, do you want to comment at all on that partnership that you're working on vigorously?
Everything he said. Have a safe flight, Mayor.
Thank you. Ken, any thoughts or? Okay?
Yeah, one comment that I want, if I could go back to it, and that was on the workload or the
Work plan?
work plan. There's a lot of work coming up this coming year in that work plan. It's going to take an effort. Do we have either the staffing, the consultants, contractors and everything ready to do all of that?
Yeah, if I should be the one answering that, I sure will. I will state that Black and Veatch is a very large company. I'm sure that they could do most of this. but we've been very cognizant of trying to keep North Dakota companies involved, and that's one of the reasons for the statement of interest from engineering services.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a major task to do what you're telling us you're going to do. And I just want to make sure we have the resources and are able to deliver on what we're talking about doing.
I would state that we're definitely planning for it and planning that we definitely will be able to.
We can do that. Because I was thinking also with that, this is great planning for 2023. We finished up a 2022 plan. We probably can clearly show all the successes we had in 2022 also, right? I think that would be something to share with everybody too.
That's probably an error on our part. We do that with the Garrison Diversion Board. We should have probably did that. We'll bring it into meeting our 2022 accomplishments.
Okay, thank you.
Ken, you do bring up one good point that, I think that with all the different drama you hear across the country, there's still a lot going on. And so I think we hear workforce and all of that. And so it will be interesting if we're fortunate to get the funding and we do the bidding. The bidding environment is really squirrely right now, and it'll be interesting from that perspective. I think this is a shiny enough project to certainly lure a lot of interest, but at the same time, it's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out.
Fargo is the number 2 place in the nation with unemployment rate. So we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the nation. But what we're finding are good businesses in the community are finding workers. So it's kind of interesting how that plays out. And they're being innovative, trying different ideas, bonuses, bringing people early, doing different things. So it's been interesting because we were always concerned. I mean, 1.4 is almost just turnover basically for people. So it's been interesting. And Ken, you have a good question about that because we get asked that all the time. But for the diversion, they're finding workers. And initially, some of the construction contractors and so on said, well, they're going to rob a lot of people from us. That didn't happen. They got some people from them, but they didn't get a lot of people from the different businesses. So it's interesting how things work out. So this one, too, I think it's going to be interesting competitively. It's a big project. And it seems how contractors come out when there's money involved. So it's kind of like your library. Show me the money, right, Ken?
Yes, yeah.
So, meeting dates are on there, tab O. Any conflicts or questions on it, Mary?
No, we just tried to plan out for the year to get it on everybody's calendar. So those are the planned meeting dates. It seems like Friday mornings work very well, so we're trying to stick with the Fridays. So if you'd please put those on your calendars, and hopefully we don't have to change them.
Very good. And thank you for all the spending you're doing while you're here in Fargo, because our sales tax revenues are up, so appreciate that very much. Any other business?
Not from me.
Okay. Dave, you're going to tell us your prediction of the game this weekend? You say Bison.
I'd say it's one of the two.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Mark? Yeah. Keith? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Or adjourn.
All right.